All right, let's just jump straight into it because things are moving incredibly fast. We're looking at a crisis between the United States and Iran that is escalating by the minute, with a critical deadline that's just hours, maybe even moments away. The whole world is watching, and honestly, the stakes could not be any higher.
And this right here, this is why the whole world is holding its breath. Just a few minutes ago, the US president put out this absolutely stunning warning. You know, a statement like that from a world leader it's almost unheard of, and it puts this entire situation into the most serious terms you can possibly imagine.
So, a threat to civilization. I mean, when you hear those words, it's not just talk. It points to the terrifying possibility of a massive, devastating conflict. But you have to ask, what's the trigger? What's the fuse that's been lit here?
And that really is the million-dollar question right now, isn't it? A deadline has been put on the table, and when that clock runs out, well, that's the focal point of this entire standoff. It's the moment that could push all of this from just threats and warnings into actual direct military action.
So that deadline, it all centers on one specific geographic location. The entire crisis is tied directly to one of the most strategically important waterways on the entire planet. And right now, control over that waterway is the major point of contention.
And here it is. The Strait of Hormuz. You can think of this narrow passage as a vital artery for the global economy. Something like a fifth of the world's entire oil supply passes through it every single day. The ultimatum from the US is pretty simple. Iran cannot, under any circumstances, interfere with ships passing through. Any attempt to close it off, well, that's the red line.
Now, what's really wild about all this is just how chaotic and contradictory the last few hours have been. I mean, just look at this timeline. 3 hours ago, we had threats of seizing oil. An hour ago, actual reports of explosions. Then, less than 30 minutes ago, you get that apocalyptic warning. And then, get this, just 8 minutes ago, a US official says they're confident a truce is likely. It's total diplomatic whiplash, and it just shows you how volatile this all is.
And it's not just rhetoric, right? We're now getting these reports of concrete military action. The focus seems to be on a target that's incredibly valuable to Iran, both strategically and symbolically.
So we're hearing from multiple outlets about strikes on Iran's Karg Island. It's been called the crown jewel of their oil industry. A U.S. official has even confirmed that military targets on that island were hit. We're talking about direct attacks on critical infrastructure. And on top of that, there are reports of a bridge being hit somewhere else in the country. This has clearly gone way beyond just talk.
So with the clock ticking down and events moving this fast, you gotta wonder, where does this all go from here? Well, based on the reporting, it really looks like there are 3 distinct possibilities for what happens tonight when that deadline hits. And this right here really captures the paradox we're in. On the one hand, you've got these incredibly aggressive public threats about seizing oil. But on the other hand, you've got senior officials expressing confidence in some kind of diplomatic way out. I mean, how do you even begin to negotiate when the signals are this polarized? It just creates this massive amount of uncertainty.
Okay, so here are the 3 paths as they're being reported. First, military escalation. The threats are carried out, the strikes continue, and this whole thing spirals into a much bigger conflict. Second path, a diplomatic truce. Somehow, behind the scenes, a deal gets done and everyone takes a big step back from the brink. And then there's the third option, which is kind of like kicking the can down the road. The deadline gets extended. That buys more time for talks, sure, but it leaves the core crisis completely unresolved.
Ultimately, this sentence pretty much says it all. The world is on a knife's edge, just holding its breath. It's balanced right between 2 profoundly different futures, with the loud rhetoric of war clashing directly with these faint whispers of peace. And that leaves us with the final urgent question. The threats have been made, the military's in motion, and the deadline is basically here. Escalation, truce, or an extension. In the next few hours, the world is going to find out which path gets chosen.